All right, let's talk about something that gets every pilot's heart racing, the aerodynamic spin. It's one of those things you hope you never, ever have to face. But what if I told you the life-saving solution was actually a pretty simple four-step procedure? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down today, the PARE method. This is the standardized recovery that every single pilot absolutely needs to know.
So check out this quote. One of the aerobatic pilots we looked at for this said about spins, it's really a non-event if it's done right. Now, hold on a second. A non-event? That sounds crazy, right? I mean, how can this terrifying corkscrewing fall out of the sky be a non-event? Well, that very contrast is what this is all about. It's about the power of having a solid procedure that overrides that initial panic. Okay, so before we can fix it, we gotta understand what we're actually dealing with. Let's get right to it. What is a spin?
So the official FAA definition calls it an aggravated stall that causes the plane to go down in this helical or corkscrew path. And listen, the most important words there are aggravated stall. You have to remember this. An airplane cannot spin unless it is stalled first. Period. The spin is what happens after the stall. So what makes it start rotating? It's all about this crazy aerodynamic imbalance. See, both wings are stalled, and this is the key, they're not stalled equally. The inside wing, the one that's lower, is more stalled than the outside one. What does that mean? It means it has a ton more drag and way less lift. That imbalance is what kicks off the auto-rotation. That's the force that literally pulls the plane into that spinning corkscrew dive. And this is where things get really, really serious. It's a life or death kind of point. When you're thrown into a crazy, disorienting situation like a spin, your brain's survival instincts just take over, right? But here's the terrifying part. In this specific case, your instincts are not just wrong, they are dangerously wrong.
I mean, just think about this for a second. What if every single thing your body is screaming at you to do is the worst possible choice? The exact opposite of what you need to do to survive? Because honestly, for a lot of pilots who find themselves in an unexpected spin, that's the scary reality they're facing.
So what are these dangerous instincts? Well, here they are. You're pointing at the ground, so you pull back on the yoke, right? Try to pull the nose up. The wings are banked, so you use the ailerons to try and level them. And you're losing altitude, so you want to add power to climb away. All of these things feel so right, so natural. But in reality, they are the very things that make the spin worse. They deepen the stall and actually make the rotation faster.
But here's the good news. Thankfully, there is a simple, standardized, and totally reliable solution. It's been taught for decades, and it's designed specifically to counter those flawed instincts and get you out of trouble safely.
And that solution is the PARE procedure, P-A-R-E. It's an acronym for 4 absolutely critical steps that you have to do in order. Ready? Power to idle, ailerons to neutral, rudder opposite the spin, and elevator forward. That's it. This is the mantra. This is the sequence that every pilot needs to have burned into their memory.
Okay, so it's one thing to just memorize PARE, but to really own it, especially under pressure, you need to understand why each of these steps actually works. So let's break it down. First up, P is for power. Power to idle. Yep, your very first move is to pull that throttle all the way back. And I know, it feels totally weird when you're falling, but there's a really good reason for it.
So why do we do this? Well, think about it. When the engine is at a high power setting, all that air blasting back from the propeller, the prop wash, is pushing down on your tail. What does that do? It creates a force that wants to pitch the plane's nose up. And pitching up is the last thing we want. So by cutting the power, we get rid of that force. This makes it way easier to push the nose down and break the stall. And breaking the stall is the whole point of this exercise. All right, next up, A. A is for ailerons to neutral. And this is another one that fights your instincts. It means literally forcing yourself not to use the ailerons to try and roll the wings level.
This one is so critical. Let's say your left wing is down. Your brain is yelling at you, use right aileron to lift it up. But if you do that, you're actually increasing the angle of attack on that left wing, the one that's already more stalled. All that does is make the stall worse and tighten the spin. So the right move here is to do nothing. Just keep those ailerons centered.
Okay, now we get to R. This is the big one. This is the step that actively stops the plane from spinning. You're gonna apply full rudder opposite to the direction of the spec.
The rudder is your #1 tool here. Why? Because a spin is, at its core, a yawing problem. The plane is swinging around, and what control surface stops yaw? The rudder. So by stomping on that rudder pedal, full deflection, opposite the spin, you are directly attacking the rotation and bringing it to a halt.
And that brings us to the final step. E for elevator forward. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is probably the most unnatural, scariest feeling step of the entire procedure. This is it, the moment of truth. The nose of the plane is pointing toward the ground, and you have to physically push the yoke forward, making it point down even more. It feels so wrong, but this is the only thing that will reduce the angle of attack on your wings. It's the action that unstalls the airplane. And the second you do that, the spin stops. The wings start creating lift again. You are no longer a falling object. You are flying again. Okay, so that's the theory. PARE. But now let's talk about the real world. What's the actual difference between doing it right and doing it wrong? Well, let's just look at the consequences of giving in to those instincts. If you add power, you're not going to climb out. You're going to make the spin worse, and you risk entering a flat spin, which is even harder to recover from. And if you try to use the ailerons, you're just going to make the plane spin faster. It's that simple. So, what's the price for doing it the right way? Well, in a typical training plane, a good, clean, 2-turn spin recovery is going to cost you about 1,000 feet of altitude. Yeah, that's a lot, but the important thing is that it's a known, predictable number. It's something you can plan for and train for. And the demonstration pilot in our source material was super clear about this. Getting it wrong costs you a lot more altitude loss. Wasting all that precious altitude fumbling with the wrong controls, that can easily be the difference between flying away and a total disaster, especially if this all starts at a lower altitude to begin with. Okay, so let's boil all this down. What are the key things you need to take away from this? The stuff that turns this from just information into something you can actually use. Here are the 3 big ones. Number 1, act fast. Don't freeze up. The longer you wait, the worse the spin gets. Number 2, know your airplane. The PARE method is standard, but you always have to check the pilot's operating handbook, the POH, for your specific aircraft's procedures. And number 3, and this is the most important one, it is absolutely non-negotiable. Train with a professional. You do not try this on your own. You practice this only with a certified instructor in an airplane that is actually approved for spins. Got it? So we'll leave you with this to think about. The PARE procedure itself, it's simple, right? It's just 4 easy-to-remember steps. But here's the real question. Is it simple to overcome your own powerful, hardwired survival instincts that are screaming at you to do the exact opposite? That's the real challenge. And that's why overcoming those instincts is the real victory of proper spin training.